Coming up on this Thursday edition of Daybreak, with no breakthrough from their first high-level meeting in 7 years, North Korea presses the South to delay its annual military drills with the U.S., hinting the exercises may affect next week's inter-Korean family reunions. Former Japanese Prime Minister Tomiichi Murayama, who apologized to victims of Japan's colonial rule and wartime aggressions during his leadership, says the Abe administration must respect the apology and resolve the military sexual slavery issue with the victims. Plus, Korea's auto industry posts a record trade surplus of $63 billion in 2013, carrying on the 30-year surplus streak. Daybreak begins now. Thanks for joining us. You're watching Daybreak on Thursday, February 13th. I'm Choi Yusan in Seoul. Let's start with the high-level talks between the two Koreas. Hopes that there might be a breakthrough during discussions were dashed late Wednesday when the two sides decided to call it a night with no substantive agreements after a marathon 14-hour meeting. Hwang Sung-hee reports.
After nearly 14 hours of negotiations, South Korean Chief Delegate Kim Kyou-hyun and his North Korean counterpart Won Dong-yon called it a day without reaching an agreement. South Korea's Unification Ministry said the upcoming family reunions and the joint military drills between Seoul and Washington were the most pressing issues at Wednesday's high-level inter-Korean talks. The Koreas are scheduled to resume reunions for families separated by the Korean War from February 20th to the 25th. For the first time in over 3 years. Pyongyang had threatened to call off the plan if Seoul went ahead with its joint military drills with Washington at the end of this month. At Wednesday's meeting, South Korea stressed the reunion event must be held as planned since it could serve as a first step in improving inter-Korean ties. The North, on the other hand, urged Seoul to postpone the upcoming key resolve and full legal exercises to sometime after the reunions. South Korea did not take the offer, sticking to its principle that humanitarian issues and military drills be dealt with separately. South Korea and the U.S. say the drills are defensive in nature, but the North views them as a practice for war. An official at the Unification Ministry said the family reunions may be put on hold if the North continues to link the event with the military exercises. The two Koreas agreed to hold additional discussions down the road, but did not fix a date. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
Korea will be welcoming a very special guest in a few weeks' time. The White House confirmed on Wednesday that U.S. President Barack Obama will visit Seoul during his planned trip to Asia in April. No dates have been released yet, but the Seoul-based Yonhap News reports President Obama will likely visit Tokyo from April 22nd to the 23rd, then Seoul from the 23rd to the 24th. He is then scheduled to travel to Malaysia and the Philippines. The White House says when President Obama meets with President Park in Seoul, they will reaffirm the two sides' alliance, review security situation on the peninsula, and the Korea-U.S. free trade deal. Ahead of President Obama's expected visit to Korea, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is due to arrive in Seoul on this Thursday for a two-day visit. Kerry, who will be visiting Seoul for the first time in 10 months, will hold talks with his Korean counterpart Yoon Byung-se, where North Korea issues will likely dominate, especially a day after Seoul and Pyongyang's high-level talks. Assessing the North's recent peace offensive and the possibilities of another provocation, the two ministers will also seek ways to resolve the North Korean nuclear issue. And before departing for Beijing Friday, Kerry will also pay a courtesy call to President Park Geun-hye. Visiting former Japanese Prime Minister Tomiichi Murayama, well known for his apology to victims of Japan's wartime atrocities in 1995, spoke out Wednesday on relations between Korea and Japan, which have hit rock bottom in recent months. The former leader also urged the Abe administration to honor the 1995 apology. Our Kim Hyun-ji has more.
Korean lawmakers welcomed former Japanese Prime Minister Tomichi Murayama to the National Assembly on Wednesday, a man they believe presents a way forward in Korea-Japan relations. Murayama took office in 1994 as the first socialist prime minister in nearly 50 years. On August 15, 1995, marking the 50th anniversary of the end of World War II, Murayama publicly acknowledged that Japan caused tremendous suffering to the people of many countries, especially in Asia, during times of war. He expressed deep remorse for the victims of his country's past actions. Speaking to Korean lawmakers Wednesday, Murayama said the spirit of the landmark statement led to the Korea-Japan Joint Declaration of 1998, which called on the two countries to forge friendly and cooperative relations entering the 21st century. Saying that this framework triggered friendly bilateral exchanges of people and culture, Murayama urged the current Abe administration to respect the spirit of the Murayama statement.
After my term ended, the Liberal Democratic Party came to power. All LDP administrations adhered to the Murayama statement. Abe's first cabinet also did. Taking office for the second time, Abe told Parliament he would honor the statement, although there have been missteps.
Murayama also acknowledged that Japan's use of women as military sex slaves during war times damaged the dignity of women. Former Japanese Prime Minister Murayama also said the governments of Korea and Japan should begin discussing how to settle historical issues, including the compensation of Korean victims forced into sexual slavery by the Japanese military during World War II. He stressed that the spirit of the Murayama statement will be key to forging friendly relations between the two countries. Kim Kyou-hyun, Arirang News.
The move to the right in Japan isn't merely confined to the Shinzo Abe administration. A growing number of 20-somethings in the nation identify themselves as ultra-right-wing. Our Park Ji-won reports on the turn to the right.
During the past weekend's election for Tokyo governor, the far-right candidate Toshio Tamogami, a former Air Self-Defense Force chief of staff who wrote a thesis denying Japan's past acts of aggression, finished fourth, earning 12% of all votes. However, in an exit poll conducted by Asahi Shimbun, he garnered 24% of support among voters in their 20s. Regarding remarks made by the new head of Japan's public TV broadcaster NHK, who said the system of sexual slavery was commonplace among countries at war, a survey conducted by Tokyo Shimbun earlier this month showed a greater number of male respondents in their 20s said he's suitable for the post than those who said he's not. A greater number of respondents in their 20s also turned out to be positive about Prime Minister Abe's visit to Yasukuni Shrine than those who are negative. This is according to a survey conducted by Sankei Shimbun last month. These are just some of examples that show a pervasive right-wing trend that is becoming more evident among the youth of Japan. Experts in Japan point out that people in their 20s did not take mandatory history courses during high school and say they're not equipped with the proper knowledge about Japan's past history of aggressions and colonial acts. Some say frustrations with the economic landscape of Japan have made them more dependent on right-wing politicians. It's raising concerns here in Korea that bilateral relations with Japan could take an even greater turn for the worse in the future when this generation of 20-somethings rises to power later on in life. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
President Park Geun-hye has nominated Saenuri Party lawmaker Lee Ju-young as the new Minister of Oceans and Fisheries. Lee, a four-time lawmaker, served as the chairman of the National Assembly's Policy Committee and is currently heading the ruling party's Yeouido Institute. Despite his limited experience with maritime and fisheries issues, the presidential office said he has been tapped thanks to his knowledge of overall state affairs. The nomination comes less than a week after the former minister Yoon Jin-suk was sacked for making inappropriate comments about a recent oil spill in waters off Korea's southern coast. And at the National Assembly, the main opposition Democratic Party's motions for the dismissal of the nation's justice and education ministers was discarded on Wednesday. Earlier in the day, the motions were put to a vote during the Assembly's plenary session. As soon as the vote began, however, nearly all of the ruling Saenuri Party lawmakers in attendance walked out. The DP wants Justice Minister Hwang Kyo-hyun to go over allegations he interfered with a police investigation into an alleged state meddling in the 2012 presidential race. Education Minister Son Nam-soo has been under fire for defending right-wing revisions to Korean history textbooks.
If you want the latest news from Korea and around the world.
Return to the negotiations.
President Park Geun-hye plans, given the current circumstances.
On your way to work or at home.
Defense Ministry. The legislature will convene a.
Tune into Daybreak on Arirang TV.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said Tuesday. Mixed signals out of the nation's labor market. Korea's unemployment rate inched up last month, but job creation sped up. This comes as more people ventured out into the job market amid signs of an economic recovery. Our Hwang Ji-hye has the details.
Hiring in Korea seems to be picking up amid signs that the domestic economic recovery is gaining momentum. Statistics Korea said Wednesday that the Korean economy added more than 700,000 jobs last month, the fastest pace of expansion in 12 years. That is also much larger than the gain of 560,000 in December last year and roughly 590,000 in November. The number of employed people in January stood at 24.7 million. The jobless rate, however, also inched up 0.1 percentage points last month from the previous year to 3.5%. The statistics agency attributes last month's rise in both job creation and the unemployment rate to a decline in the number of people who gave up looking for a job. It went on to say that more people were out searching for work amid stronger signs of an economic recovery. The domestic economy grew 2.8% in 2013 from the previous year, which represented a reversal of a two-year slowdown and 2% growth in 2012. Korea's youth unemployment rate for people between the ages of 15 and 29, meanwhile, rose 1.2 percentage points last month from a year earlier to 8.7%. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
For Korea's auto industry, 2013 was a very good year. The sector enjoyed a record-high trade surplus last year, and the upcoming year looks to be just as bright. Our Yurian explains why.
The domestic auto industry was Korea's star player in the export market last year. Korea's trade ministry said Wednesday that the sector's trade surplus hit a record high of $63 billion in 2013. That was the highest surplus among all the country's export categories, and it wasn't even close. The shipbuilding sector came in a distant second last year at $34 billion. Ever since 1984, when the nation began to break away from its heavy dependence on imports of auto parts, the auto trade surplus has grown by an average of 34% each year. The ministry attributes last year's record to a rise in quality competitiveness and enhanced brand value, along with the increased popularity overseas of Korea's large cars and recreational vehicles. The auto industry is expected to enjoy an even better year in 2014 on improving demand in and out of the country. The sector started off the year on a high note, with domestic sales of Korean automobiles in January gaining 4% on year. Outbound shipments, however, plunged by nearly 10% last month due to souring global sentiment over the U.S. tapering its quantitative easing. But looking at the whole year ahead, the trade ministry expects Korea to post a record high in exports on an upturn in global demand from Europe and emerging countries like China and Russia as they begin to recover from their economic slumps. Yurian, Arirang News.
Korea's finance minister is reaching out to foreign companies and asking them to invest more in the nation. In return, he is promising to create one of the world's most investment-friendly environments. Finance Minister Hyun Woo-seok's comments came on Wednesday in a meeting with foreign business leaders in central Seoul. He pledged to improve transparency of laws and policies as a means to tear down the barriers that foreigners face while doing business in Korea. Hyun assured that the domestic economy is showing signs of recovery and said Korea has differentiated itself from other emerging economies thanks to sizable foreign reserves and a strong current account surplus. The Korean government has been trying to boost the nation's low birth rate through various measures for years now, but officials are still waiting for their hard work to bear fruit. The health ministry says the nation's birth rate for 2013 is estimated to have come in at 1.18, down from 1.3 the previous year. The OECD average is 1.74 children born to a woman over her lifetime. Since 2005, the government has been investing an average of $9.5 billion every year to try and boost the worryingly low birth rate. The efforts have ranged from lengthening nursery school hours and introducing measures to lower the financial burden of raising children. A powerful winter storm is cutting an icy swath across the southeastern United States, cutting power for more than 300,000 homes and businesses and blanketing streets in ice and snow. On Wednesday, the massive storm swept through Texas, Georgia, and the Carolinas, states not used to dealing with such wintry conditions, causing thousands of flights across the country to be canceled, including 70% of all flights in and out of Atlanta. The U.S. National Weather Service says the storm is heading northeast and will drop up to 20 centimeters of snow on Washington and 25 centimeters on New York City overnight. There are winter storm watches and warnings in place all the way from Texas to New England. President Barack Obama has declared a state of emergency in Georgia, ordering federal agencies to help the state and local response during the storm. We are approaching the midway point of the Sochi Winter Olympics, and hundreds of millions of people around the world are tuning in to watch the games on television and online. To make it even easier for Korean fans, local tech firms have developed smartphone apps so fans can be up to date on all the latest results anytime, anywhere. Paul Lee reports.
Whether it's catching a glimpse of figure skating star Kim Kyou-hyun or speed skating legend Lee Sung-hwa, watching Team Korea compete on the ice is a must-see experience for fans here at home and abroad. To ensure fans never miss a single Olympic event, local web portal firms have released their own mobile applications to celebrate the Winter Games. Designed for smartphones and tablet PCs, the special apps offer video on demand and real-time streaming services of the races and events. Many users say the services are convenient to use whenever or wherever they want to catch up on the latest highlights.
Even though the events I'm interested in take place at night, I'm still able to watch them on my mobile. I also leave supportive comments and view information on the athletes.
Korea's internet-based television or IPTV industry has also jumped on board. The mobile IPTV apps are now available to give users unlimited access to high-definition broadcasts of the games.
At the Sochi Olympics and other national events, it's important for Koreans to collectively cheer on and support our national athletes. That's why we're offering data and content usage relating to the Sochi Olympics free of charge.
With the proliferation of smartphones, it's never been easier to watch your favorite athletes take on the world and hopefully rise to the top of the podium. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
And a good Thursday to you all as we kick off our Sochi coverage with Motaebom's quest for a medal during the 1,000-meter men's speed skating event. And despite putting in all he can, he fell short, finishing in 12th place overall. And despite an amazing start to his race, stamina once again proves to be the problem for the men's speed skaters as he finishes with a final time of 1 minute 9.37 seconds, good for 12th overall. Meanwhile, the Netherlands add 2 more medals in the sport as Stefan Gruthus grabs the 1,000-meter gold, followed by Canada's Denny Morrison in second, and 500-meter gold medalist Mitchell Mulder finishing off with a bronze medal in the event. And moving over to women's curling, where despite a hard-fought match, the Korean women's curling team fell just short against the world-ranked #1 Sweden on Wednesday. Now, during the round-robin session 4, Korea took an early lead after the third end and looked pretty good. But in the fifth end, Sweden proves why they're the #1 nation in women's curling as they managed to score 3 points and never looked back after that. Now, Korea will lose to Sweden with a final score of 7-4 as they're set to face off against Russia during their round-robin session 6. And moving over to pairs figure skating as Russia proves to be a powerhouse in the sport as 2 Russian pairs finished with a gold and silver earlier today. Now, first off, the heavy favorites in the event, Tatiana Volosazar and Maxim Trankov, shines during the free skating program, scoring 152.69 after posting a 84.17 the day before, as they take the gold medal with a combined score of 236.86. Now, meanwhile, another Russian pair, Ksenia Stolbova and Fyodor Klimov, finished with a silver medal in the event after coming in second with 218.68. Now, history was made on day 5 of Sochi Winter Games when a double gold was issued after 2 skiers both finished first during women's downhill. And for the first time in 78 years of Olympics in alpine skiing, 2 downhill skiers, Tina Mays of Slovenia and Dominique Gissen of Switzerland, both finished tied for first with a time of 1 minute 41.57 seconds. Despite the event missing the defending champion Lindsey Vonn, the double gold brought excitement to the fans who watched history being made. And for all of you guys following the South Korean Olympians in Sochi, let's take a look at a couple of events to look forward to in day 6 of the Sochi Winter Games. Now, first off, 3 Korean short track stars will be competing during the women's 500-meter short track event as Shim Seok-hee, Park Seung-hee, and also Kim Arirang looking to win Korea's first medal in the short track event. Meanwhile, Lee Sang-hwa, who won the women's 500-meter speed skating gold, will try to add another medal as she's set to compete in the women's 1,000-meter speed skating event, as Kim Kyou-hyun is also set to compete in the event as well. And finishing things off, let's take a look at the medal count after 5 days of competition at the Sochi Winter Games. Of course, taking a look at a chart here, we see that Germany is up at the top now as they now have 6 gold medals, 1 silver and 1 bronze for a total of 8. Meanwhile, Canada in second with the Netherlands in 4th place thanks to all their medals in speed skating. And with Korea failing to win their second medal, they're tied for 11th with just 1 gold medal. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning. Well, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, January 2014, last month, was one of the mildest January in 7 years. So the temperatures we're having lately, we tend not to appreciate it that much, and it does feel like spring is late incoming this year. But temperatures are right at the seasonal average these days, and today should be slightly warmer than yesterday. But also, it will be cloudier under mostly to partly cloudy skies. But parts of Gangwon-do have been receiving heavy snowfall since this morning, and it looks like it's going to continue to snow till late in the afternoon. Now, tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and if you have a big plan tomorrow, you're in luck because the weather will be fairly nice for your day. It will be milder and sunnier, and it will continue to be nice throughout the weekend. So please keep that in mind, and here are the readings for today. The morning low in Seoul is at -2, but we'll get up to 5. Daegu and Gwangju wake up to low of 0 and -1. Incheon and see a high of 6 and 9 respectively, while Busan will top out at 7 this afternoon. Now for other regions, it looks like Jeju will climb up to 9, Daejeon will rise to 7, while the top temperature on Mount Keungang will be at -8. Now that's all for Korea, and here's the global weather forecast for viewers around the world. Hope you have a wonderful day, and back to Yusan in the studio.
And those are the stories we have for you at this hour. Stay with us throughout the day as we bring you the latest headlines.